But I mean, internally, you resolve the problem so that you don't get those findings
Yes.
in an audit. And so, yeah, I guess it's the same thing where, you know, in federal government, I mean, FSMA, you can't lie to FSMA. And what FSMA finds, and you report it to the White House. And independent audit's the same thing. But if we treat that initial process, the tier 1 and tier 2, as a collaborative process, because you haven't really, in your model, you didn't really talk about internal audit. You talked about external.
No, the third line is internal audit.
Is internal.
External is something else.
Is after.
Yeah.
So, but they report directly to the board, so it's not, they make a report.
In some companies,
straight up.
the internal audit would report to the board, yeah.
Okay, well, in that case, I mean, you gotta follow the process. But I would argue for a more collaborative approach.
Yeah, I agree with that, you know, on the, you know, particularly on the assurance function, you know, that second line of defense. And in fact, I hear a lot about how the assurance people have more expertise than the auditors, and they kind of resolve things, and it's only when they can't resolve something and they need the board to issue an edict or something like that they'll feed things to the internal audit.
That makes sense. That seems like a good model.
The term is that in the industry, tail wags the dog. So if you need resources, and you can't get the resources, the auditors can always help by creating a finding. Senior management takes those findings pretty damn seriously, and somehow in the back end you get the resources to help you fix the problem.
Right, so that's I'd call that the using the auditor as a hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I mean that's a fair way to get things done. But I also would think that, I mean, there isn't a nuclear option anymore, I'm told, but it would be like the nuclear option.
Right.
If there, I mean, where you go, you know, you guys need to fix this, or else I'm gonna have to get a hammer and give you the finding.
Yeah, it should be the last resort.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot better work out of people when you collaborate with them, and you create a win-win environment than you do by creating blame and hammers, that sort of thing.
Well, it's too far down the assembly line to do it either efficiently or cheaply either. The place to catch bugs and make findings is as early as possible in the life cycle of the product, because then you've got less dependencies and you've got less general labor and cost and time and potential downtime and risk in general, because once you're connecting systems to this product, then you have a lot of unknown risk when you start tweaking things at that point in the process. So time to catch it is early and cheap before it festers and gets connected to a bunch of stuff.
So what about when you're working with a lot of outsourced third parties, cloud service providers or outsourced developers, and they dance to a different drum?
But you can't transfer accountability.
But
no, you can't. But cloud, I mean, especially cloud service in general, not always, but I would argue that they're a lot better at security than we are. In general, their security. I skipped that slide actually. I had a slide about that, about how new stuff is scary. About how, like, I didn't exactly say it like that, but like clouds and DevOps and automation and, you know, agile methodologies and stuff like that are risky. And yes, they are risky, but doing things the old-fashioned way, where it took 2 years to get an application out the door in a waterfall model, was risky too. And I think the risks are just different. And then if you understand the risks of those and understand the gaps, because the cloud people are really super good at patching, and they're really most of the problems that you have with cloud, that you see in cloud, are either due to infrastructure problems where they break a route or something and DOS themselves for a few hours, or there are issues with the customer not understanding the configurations and leaving their firewalls open, making their permission groups public and things like that. And so I would argue that if you want to manage the risks for that, then you need to get somebody on your team that understands it, or bring yourself up to speed on it, is the first thing to do. And then understand the differences between the thing that you're used to doing and the thing that you want to do next. And figuring out the differences and the gotchas between those two things. But I think, in general, cloud is better. They're better at patching, they're better at configuration, they're better at a lot of things, and you don't have to manage it. So you don't have to worry about your idiots breaking stuff. It's their idiots, and their idiots are supposed to be better at their product than you are. So all you have to do is understand the layer that you control and manage that well. And the same thing, with agile, iterative, fast, like if you can do stuff fast, you can discover your mistakes and you can change directions and adjust course more quickly and be more responsive to your competitors, including hackers who are basically the competition as well that you need to stay ahead of. And so you can be more reactive, but without interrupting your flow by doing things quickly and iteratively, doing things in small packages. And that's where everything's going, is to, we're miniaturizing applications. Like think of this as like we're moving into solid state. We're moving into solid state electronics in a way of, going from transistors and big servers to like miniaturized, microservices and containerization and things like that, where you're encapsulating really small functions into tiny packages and creating those just kind of almost at will, and creating really unique things for specific purposes, which makes them inherently less attack surface and can narrow your connections, but it's complicated. I don't know, did that? Yes.
Yeah, issue on documentation on slide 19. As you know, it's gonna be audit season is around the corner in the federal space.
Yeah.
One of the requirements is that we gotta document a lot. So from your experience, what is the leeway or what is the proposition for reducing documentation for auditors? I know for stakeholders, we can all the time create a diagram, we can create a page or two, but for auditors, we gotta document process, procedures, and policy. Is there any way we can cut down excessive documentation for auditors?
I'm not positive, but I think that a lot of, like the SSP, for example, are you thinking of that, System Security Plan? That's my kind of my pet peeve.
No, I'm thinking about responding for audit requests. And auditors will be requesting, bring this, bring that. There will be a lot of PPCs or some kind of
Oh,
files.
right.
So there's extensive writing and documentation back and forth. Would that be considered as a lot of documentation?
So as artifacts, like when they
Artifacts,
say,
yeah.
what's your account creation policy or something
yeah.
like that, and most of the time people shrug their shoulders and go, we don't have one. Like, or we just follow the agency manual or something. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if having, it seems like if you had an overarching document that said, we're gonna document our processes in our help system, and that's how we do stuff. Because everything's gonna end up as SOPs in your help system anyway, because that's when you have a standard solution for something. So if you documented your stuff in your standard solution, you'd have lightweight, practical stuff that was in one place that you only have to change once when your processes change. I don't know, that, I mean, or something,
Yeah.
something like that. That's what I would shoot for, because when I do change requests, or when I look at people doing, you know, reviewing documents and stuff like that, all they're doing is just checking to see if the dates are aligned, and if some of the basic things sort of align, and they're not looking at the actual words in the document or the processes. And so I think there's a huge loss in value as we duplicate forms that they tend to go out of sync very quickly, and that's a problem. So if I couldn't document it in the help system, I'd put it in something like GitHub, or put it in something like a wiki format, and make that the place where all the stuff was. And that way at least you can keep it in one place. The problem with most of the wiki formats is that you can't do version control on rich documents. So you can't do version control on diagrams, and you can't do, you know, Word docs and Visios and things that you'd actually want to have in there. So that's problematic. And you know, what's that thing called? Scare point. It's like where data goes to die. The knowledge mismanagement system. You know, yeah. But so I guess, I mean, I see what I had in my organization, I guess, and then I'd try to get everybody to agree to put stuff in one place and only put it there, and not try to keep a bunch of stuff inside, and wherever possible for CRs, or for, you know, for change requests, or for you know, SOPs or whatever, I'd try and have as little attachments to those as possible, just to try and keep stuff in sync, so that you have documents that go on all the time.
Mark it somewhere and just send a link to the
Just
document.
easy, and don't buy anything. Because then you have to migrate off of it, and you'll lose all your data. Do something really simple, rich text, so that then when you migrate off of it, because in 2 years, you know, the contract's going to expire, and you're going to have to recompete it, and you're going to have to move it off of whatever you bought, so get something close. I'm serious. That's something. That's big. We spend more time migrating off of stuff than we do actually using the stuff that's on the thing that we're migrating on. So I'm done if you're done. Yes, sir.
Well, I had just one comment or question or whatever. I work on a big federal contract, and it's with that Agile vendor, and they do a great job of getting to 80%. How do you get them to get that last piece? Because if you're talking about compliance, 80% isn't meeting the mail.
Paying more money.
I mean, how do you
This
get
is a different talk. So
how
this
would
is
you get other people to buy into 80% is good enough? I mean,
This
that's-
is the security so we don't get to make that decision. That was in one of my little captions, is that we don't get to decide, like all of us, unless anybody's the authorizing official. Like, we don't get to sign off on risk. We just identify it, and we tell the authorizing official what could happen, and they make the risk decision, right? So if you're in compliance with your contract, and if you, in your heart of hearts, believe that 80% is good enough, then you should advise your security officers and your authorizing official that it's good enough. And here's the compensating controls that create a defense in depth that mitigate the fact that this one thing isn't perfect, and neither is this thing, and neither is that thing. But these things taken in combination make enough, like create enough conjunctions in the risk statement to make this not a thing. And let's focus on, you know, account revocation, which everybody's terrible at, Nobody knows how to do that. Like, let's focus on that. That like some disgruntled person who just walked out the door ends up keeping half their accounts for 6 years because nobody knows how to get rid of them. And nobody documents what those are. I mean, not to like, throw account management under the bus, but if I was gonna look at risk, if this, and then the other one is like, if we don't expire this person's account, then they can go in as admin and do whatever the hell they want to. It's a no-brainer. Or, password, secrets management or something like that, where somebody can just go in and own your thing right now. I mean, 'cause it's a value. It's a value proposition. And I can't tell you the right thing to do in your organization, but I know that we're wasting a lot of money making stuff that doesn't matter very much perfect, while stuff that matters a whole bunch is ignored. And so I would just try to take a bigger picture view at it. And because we're not going to be perfect. It's like crushing rocks, and so boulders become rocks, and rocks become sand, and sand becomes dust, and we still have stuff we need to clean up. But the finer, like the less boulders we have, the less risk we have. And so I would focus on breaking down some of those big, long-standing boulders and move. To draw a metaphor way too long here, but I would focus on getting the big stuff and the high risk stuff, and it's tricky though, because when you have a contract, they agreed to do it perfect, and depending on whether it's time and materials or what kind of contract it is, like you may be able to hold their feet to the fire. Is it the best thing to have them work on? I don't know. I mean, that's a decision that people, I don't know. It's a hard choice to make, right? It's like we paid you to do this job and you only get 80% of it. But there's another thing that you need to do that's important too, and if we get this one thing to 100%, then the second thing you're supposed to do is only going to get down to 20% because we're going to run out of runway, and you're going to lose the contract, and we're going to lose the value that we hope to extract from the contract. So then you start dealing with trade-offs, and again, that's a business decision. Like that's not really. I mean, we advise people as to the risks of stuff, and then the business has to make the decision of what risks they're willing to accept, right? And I think a lot of the time we try to make those value judgments on behalf of the business and get really mad when they don't see things our way. But what they do, they have to pay the bills, and generally, they're the ones whose careers are going to get really ruined and are going to be raising their right hand when they're explaining why they made the decisions that they did. And we may lose our careers too, but we won't be on TV. So we'll be able to get other jobs.
We were, all of my military career, we were always trained to at least get to that 80% solution. Don't keep spinning your wheels trying to make it perfect. And so my entire military career was that rule of 80%.
But you guys actually, I mean, like medical, and you guys, like you actually, like it actually matters, and you don't you don't spend your time like when you're out in the field. People aren't polishing the Jeeps, like they're making sure that the Jeeps run and the guns are are functioning properly. Like you don't worry about the cosmetics and compliance and survival. Like you got to win the battle first. And if you do that in full compliance with the regulations, then that's a big plus. But if you don't, I mean, you can work out the Geneva Convention thing later. Like, let's get this done.
Yeah, I like your presentations. You communicated very complex concepts in a very easy way, and pertinently, you didn't use color, no flashy clip arts, no bullets, very simple slides. Is there any lesson for security professionals how we communicate, or?
I was, no, I was gonna do.
What was your preference? You know, it's not flashy, not clip-art image.
I was gonna do pictures, and I was
But
just.
it's very effective.
This whole copyright thing has gotten so complicated. I know that these will probably end up on the web, and I didn't want to get trolled about using pictures. I had a bunch of, there were a few different things. I mean, I had all these really cool pictures of scary bunnies, and I was going to put them on there, and I just, I kind of ran out of time and just didn't have the stomach for trying to figure out the licensing on all the pictures, because like, I've seen people get them just massively trolled online for using other people's pictures. So I just decided to skirt the issue.
But it's very, very effective. You focus on the point and what you're reading instead of other things, no interruption. So it's great.
Well, I'm glad that worked out. It wasn't really.
I don't know what others
I
do.
enjoyed it.
Question in the
It was
back?
really the hardest thing actually was I wanted to auto number the slides, but I was using Google Docs for it, and it would only number the slides from the beginning, and I couldn't get, so it wouldn't start the problem at statement number 1. It started at statement number 5. I couldn't get it to do it, so I ended up having to copy and paste the numbers individually from the slide.
Question in the back?
Pardon? Oh, okay. And I will get Bronco to post these online, by the way. And I'm intermittently blogging now, but I'm doing a few. So come in. Mark's the only person that likes me, though. He's the only person that likes my blog. Please come in and say something about my posts if you want to.
I'll read your blog if you read
Okay.
Actually, you know, there's a guy called Edward Tufte. He said you shouldn't use bullets, so I thought you read that.
Where's he?
Edward Tufte.
Last one.
Tufte, yeah. The visual display, one of the major principles is not to use bullet in your presentation so that you don't box people. So it's a great layout and color and expression.
There's none.
That's what Tufte said. That's good.
Yeah, it was kind of lazy, actually. It's lazy formatting. So if you're done, if you want to go home, I want to go home. Does anybody want to go to the German bar and have a beer with me? There's a German bar.
Yeah.
Wait, where's it?
I love it.
I'm talking.